say at 4 o'clock in the morning, of the Liberal Democrats. As you say, they were completely destroyed, consumed, eaten by the Conservative Party effectively back in 2015 after their 5-year period in government. I think it's a sort of double-edged sword in a way for the Lib Dems. On the one hand, I think it's quite clear that they may well be re-establishing themselves as they used to be known as the bit of a party of protest, the none of the above. You voted Lib Dem because you weren't too happy with Labour or the Conservatives as a sort of duopoly, and the Lib Dems did very well at that. We shouldn't forget, people write that off, but the Lib Dems back in 2010, or 2005 I should say, had 62 seats, had just less than that in 2010. But I think we are seeing a return to that. The question is, of course, well, what are they for, rather than just being a party of protest? But look, as a result of by-elections this year, those MPs that they've won in these 2 by-elections will be 15% of their parliamentary total. So it's not an insignificant thing winning the odd by-election when you have so few numbers in the House of Commons. I think you see the monster already being Looney Party there.
We're seeing the candidates gather. We will go to them when the announcement is made. But what do we know about the Lib Dems candidate?
Well, she was the candidate back in 2019, indeed. So she did have a local profile, which I think will have helped her a bit. But it has to be said, as I said to her when I met her last week, you know, what makes you think you've got a chance of winning this when you're saying you're going around saying it's a Lib Dem Conservative 2-horse race when you only got 10% of the vote back in 2019? Labour Party got 22% of the vote. She said, well, things are different. Looks like she was right and I was wrong because she's about to become the new Member of Parliament for the constituency. So, you know, she's, as I say, a local person. They majored on that extremely heavily, as is not unusual in by-elections. But it looks like it's really paid them dividends, both in terms of potentially taking some of that 22% of the Labour vote that they got last time, and as I say, going from not second but third, and a miserable third at that, to getting first in this seat, which has been a Conservative seat since the Great Reform Act of 1832.
How much of a calculated vote was there between Labour and Lib Dem voters to make sure basically anyone but Conservatives got in?
Well, we don't know yet, obviously, because we haven't seen the results, so we can't see what the transfer is. It seems very likely. I was talking to a Lib Dem earlier tonight saying they had worked very, very hard to ensure that the Labour vote stayed at 10% or less, which would allow them to win. But yeah, it looks likely that will have happened.
Okay, let's leave it there, Lewis, and go now to Shrewsbury for this announcement.
And thank you for your patience. I, Tim Collard, being the Deputy Acting Returning Officer at the election of a Member of Parliament for the North Shropshire constituency, declare that the total number of votes given to each candidate was as follows. Akersmith Suzanne, commonly known as Akersmith Susie, Independent, 95. Oh. Alan Andrea Christabel, UK Independence Party, UKIP, 378. Hey. Miles Andrew Philip, commonly known as Bean Bunged Boris, Rejoin EU, 58. Oh. Daubney Martin Edward, the Reclaim Party, 375. Dean Russell Fraser, the Party, 19. Elliot James Alexander, Heritage Party, 79. Hope Allen, commonly known as Hope Howling Lord, the official Monster Raving Looney Party, 118. Jesse Earl Elvis Philippe, Freedom Alliance, the Real Alternative, 57. Kenwood Yolande Ann, 3. Kerr Duncan Alistair, Green Party, 1,738. Morgan Helen Margaret Lillian, Liberal Democrats, 17,957. Shastri Hurst, Neil, the Conservative Party candidate, 12,032. Walmsley, Kirsty Rebecca, Reform UK, 1,427. And finally, Wood, Benjamin Thomas, commonly known as Wood Ben, Labour Party, 3,686. The number of official ballot papers rejected was as follows: want of official mark, 3, voting for more than one candidate, 20, writing or mark by which voter could be identified, 0, unmarked or void for uncertainty, 51. The total number of rejected ballot papers was 74. The total number of votes cast across North Shropshire at this election on the 16th of December 2021 was 38,096. The total electorate is 82,314. Therefore, I give public notice that Morgan Helen Margaret Lillian is duly elected as the Member of Parliament for the North Shropshire constituency.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the returning officer, his staff and my fellow candidates for a well-run election in the most challenging and the rest of my family. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your love and support. I'd also like to thank my election agent, Chris Lovell-Morgan, my incredible campaign team, the Shropshire Liberal Democrats, and the thousands of Liberal Democrat campaigners who answered our party's call. Your amazing efforts have delivered a gift of hope to our country just in time for Christmas. Tonight, the people of North Shropshire have spoken on behalf of the British people. They've said loudly and clearly, Boris Johnson, the party is over. Your government, run on lies and bluster, will be held accountable. It will be scrutinised, it will be challenged, and it can and will be defeated. Across the country, the Liberal Democrats are taking on the Conservatives and winning. In rural Shropshire today, just like in Buckinghamshire in June, we have won the support of the people who have always voted Conservative and people who have always opposed them. Thousands of lifelong Conservative voters, dismayed by Boris Johnson's lack of decency and fed up with being taken for granted. And thousands of lifelong Labour voters choosing to lend their votes to the candidate who can defeat the Conservatives.
That's true.
People who believe that our politics should be about creating a better country for us all, not a nightly soap opera of calamity and chaos. All of them casting their ballots for the Liberal Democrats.
Great speech.
And let me say specifically to all those Labour supporters who lent their votes today, thank you. You have shown tonight that together we can defeat the Conservatives, not with deals behind closed doors, but with common sense at the ballot box. These are testing times for our country. Our NHS, as we know too well here in Shropshire, is teetering on the brink. Our rural economy is in a precarious state with people's livelihoods at risk. Our country is crying out for leadership. Mr Johnson, you are no leader. Many of your predecessors took office because they believed in a sense of national service, that they were duty-bound to do what they believed is right for our country, to represent all of us, even if we disagreed with them. Mr Johnson, this is not how you operate. Too often it is all about you and never about us. Instead of taking action to help Shropshire's NHS, you spend time seeking questionable donations to refurbish your flat. Instead of taking action to support Shropshire's farmers, you spend your time misleading the nation on how you and your office partied during lockdown. Tonight, the people of North Shropshire have said enough is enough. They have said that you are unfit to lead and that they want a change. I want to pay tribute tonight to my party leader, Ed Davey. Ed, thanks to you, it is the Liberal Democrats who are opposing Boris Johnson's government and winning. From Cheshire and Amersham to North Shropshire, you lead our campaigns from the front. I want to thank you personally for the support you've given me over the last few weeks. Whether it is on the streets of Whitchurch or Wem, Oswald Street, Ellesmere or Market Drayton, you have led the charge for change. Finally, thank you most of all to the people of North Shropshire, not just for your support throughout this campaign, not just for putting your faith in me to be your champion in Parliament, but for all the hard work and sacrifices you have made over the past 2 years to get our communities through this awful pandemic. I will never take it for granted. My priorities are your priorities: improving our local ambulance service, GPs and hospitals, supporting our farmers and defending our rural way of life, helping our communities through this new wave of COVID. As your MP, I promise I will work for you and only you. I will always put local people and our communities first. Whether you supported me or supported someone else, I want to let you know that I'm here to represent you and stand up for everyone in North Shropshire. Thank you.
Oh, great speech. Beautifully played and sums it up. What a good woman.
You are watching BBC News, and that was Helen Morgan speaking there, who has just been declared the winner in the North Shropshire by-election. She's from the Liberal Democrat Party. That is traditionally a safe Conservative seat, so quite the news headline there that the Conservatives have lost that seat. I'm joined in the studio by Lewis Goodall, who covers policy and politics for the BBC's Newsnight programme. And Lewis, a vote of nearly 18,000 for Helen Morgan.
And it wasn't just a victory, it is a sizable victory, a majority of well over 5,000 votes. This is more than I think the Liberal Democrats could have dreamed of. When I was speaking to them last week, when I was speaking to them just today, they were saying, yes, there's a bit of expectation management there, but they were saying, we think we're running them close, we think we might win it, it's going to be tight. This wasn't tight, this was a blowout. This is a comprehensive victory. They barely even seem to need some of the Labour votes. There's been direct transference from the Conservative Party. Yes, they've squeezed the Labour vote as well, very successfully. So again, something else we've seen in recent elections like Chesham and Amersham. But make no mistake, Liberal Democrats will celebrate. Ed Davey, their leader, of course, will not be able to go to the count because he's self-isolating, something I'm sure that he will rue, but doubtless from the comfort of his isolation house, he'll be having a glass of champagne or 10 tonight, because now, as I say, this is another by-election victory atop of another sensational victory in Chesham and Amersham. You will be seeing Conservative MPs in Lib Dem seats across the country deeply worried, and a body blow for the authority of the Prime Minister.
Lewis, thank you very much. If you're watching internationally, you can get the latest on this on the BBC News website and the BBC News app. If you're watching here in the UK, do stick with us. Much more on this, but for those of you joining around the world, thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.